One day, out of the blue, my husband's child from a previous relationship showed up in front of us with a young kid in tow. "I'll let you raise the baby, old hag. I'm gonna remarry with a rich businessman's daughter." After leaving those words behind, he vanished without a trace, leaving the child with us. At my wit's end over how to deal with the child, my husband suggested we take care of him. "Really? I'd love to." I eagerly agreed. And just like that, 16 years have flown by. Now, Tom and his wife, who learned about the child we raised as if watched over by everyone at my workplace, have suddenly appeared in front of us again. My name is Sally Turner, 65 years old. I live with my son Ken, a medical student, and my husband Sean. My family has been running a medical equipment manufacturing and sales business since 1912, and as an only daughter, I joined the company after graduating from college, surrounded by employees who have been working for us for years. With my days filled with work, love was always on the back burner. Being dedicated to your work is great and all, but what about a successor, huh? A successor? I was worried by the veteran workers, who doted on me like grandchildren, but all I could say was, effort doesn't always make things work out, you know? While I hoped for a connection, I simply didn't have the mental or time capacity to dedicate myself to matchmaking. However, one day, I received an email from a long-standing client and doctor at a medical university, requesting improvements to the equipment they were using. Of course, as a machinery manufacturing company, we couldn't ignore suggestions for improvement. But, feeling frustrated with the slow email correspondence, the doctor suddenly showed up at our company one day. "Your enthusiasm is appreciated, but showing up unannounced is a bit much." I was somewhat taken aback to meet him, but he was the one who was surprised. Because my email signature only included my last name, he had assumed I was a male heir, so he was taken aback to meet a younger woman instead. Things didn't start off smoothly, but afterwards, we succeeded in upgrading the equipment by pooling our ideas together. Eventually, we started dating somewhat casually, and I found out that Sean, who would later become my husband, had a 12-year-old stepson at the time, Tom. I started dating my wife during med school, and we got married right after graduation, but I divorced because things with her dad just weren't working out. That's what he told me. By then, I was somewhat considering marriage with Sean, but, to be honest, the idea of a child was completely unexpected. However, at 42 and already divorced, it wasn't strange for Sean to have a child. In fact, it might even be considered normal. With that in mind, I asked to meet Sean's stepson, Tom, at least once. Tom was in the 6th grade and about 12 years old, an age where he could express his own opinions. I thought it wouldn't be right to force anything if Tom simply couldn't accept me. When I first met Tom, despite being only 12, he seemed tall and mature for his age. He must have heard some things about me from Sean in advance. "Huh. Dad's been saying how young you are, but for 33, you sure look a lot older." Tom started off with that sort of cheeky comment, and although Sean was red-faced and angry, I wasn't upset at all. It seemed unreasonable to me for adults to bring someone they barely know into their lives and expect immediate warmth and affection. Had Tom completely ignored me at that first meeting, I might have gracefully given up, but since he kept talking to me despite his cheeky comments, I held on to hope that maybe, over time, we could get along. Of course, I realized all too soon that my optimism might have been a bit too much. After a while, Sean and I got married. I was fine with just registering the marriage because of Tom, but Sean insisted, "No, let's have a proper wedding. It's not fair for you to feel hesitant just because I'm remarrying. I don't want to disregard the feelings of those who want to see you in a bridal gown." So, we had a wedding with just our parents, my coworkers, and a few of Sean's colleagues and his mother, at a quaint venue near my workplace. Our married life started with the 4 of us, including Sean's mother. Actually, Tom hadn't always lived with Sean. After the divorce, he was raised by his ex-wife. However, Tom found himself with a half-brother from his mother's new relationship with a male doctor chosen as the successor to the hospital run by his former grandfather, who didn't get along with Sean. Concerned about the future succession of the hospital, his former grandfather suggested Sean take Tom in, and that's how they started living together 3 years ago. I was shocked by the suddenness, but with my shifts and night duties, I couldn't raise him on my own. So, after my father passed away, we moved closer to my childhood home where my mother, who had been living there, could help us out. Hearing this, I couldn't help but cry, thinking about Tom being tossed around by the circumstances of the adults in his life. And although it wasn't to fill a void, I wanted to do whatever I could to give Tom some semblance of a childhood. Thus began our life as a family of 4, which on the surface, passed by peacefully. Sean's mother, who became my mother-in-law, was cheerful and kind, always stepping up to help with household chores when I was busy at work or swamped with deadlines, and my colleagues at work made sure I wasn't overwhelmed, joking, "Don't let your husband run away because you're too busy with work right after getting married." But on the other hand, I was struggling with how to act as a stepmother to Tom. As he entered middle school, Tom said, "I don't want to be a doctor like Dad or my real mom, but I do have a university I want to attend," expressing his wish to hire a prestigious tutor. Sean, his grandmother, and I all agreed to this, but it became an excuse for Tom to start engaging in various problematic behaviors. At school, where students were placed into classes based on their grades, Tom began to verbally abuse and mock those in lower classes, pestering them incessantly. Tom claimed he wanted to attend a special lecture during a long weekend and took a significant amount of money for the participation fee, only to spend it on arcade visits instead, claiming lectures were held when they weren't. He even sold a laptop we bought for him, claiming he needed it, at a pawn shop to fund outings with his friends. The incident of selling items at the pawn shop was enough to infuriate Sean. Sean was furious to discover that Tom had not only sold the laptop but also Sean's guitars, amplifiers, his grandmother's dress, and bags. "You understand what you've done, right? Sneaking around, taking Sally's things, exploiting the trust we have in our family by not locking things up." Sean scolded him, raising his voice, a rarity for him. Yet, Tom, unfazed and smirking, replied, "Got it, I just need to apologize, right? Our kind stepmother won't get mad over something like this, right? After all, we're a loving family. We need to be understanding, don't we?" With that, he nonchalantly left the room, leaving his sobbing grandmother, Sean, and me speechless. Despite his troubled behavior, Tom's natural intelligence shone through, and he smoothly advanced to a school known for its academic rigor. Once in the school, his troubles shifted towards relationships, often leaving girls from other schools in tears, leading to their furious parents storming into my company. As a parent, I was berated for my lack of supervision and questioned about the kind of upbringing I was providing. I had no words in return, only able to continuously apologize. I had no intention of resolving things with money, but I prepared some to at least cover the financial losses Tom had caused, waiting for the parents to take it and leave. Tom would show up just then, saying things like, "Seeing you apologize like that, unable to say anything back, is just pitiful. But you're my kind stepmom, so it can't be helped, right?" My colleagues, having witnessed his behavior, remarked, "He's a fool who can't take responsibility for his own actions. He thinks it's fine to dump everything on others and have them clean up his messes." While we might feel sorry for his background, using it as an excuse to justify himself won't do him any good in the long run. Tom also cleared his SAT, moving on to the prestigious university he had always wanted to attend. By then, Sean's mother had passed away, and it was just the 3 of us living together when Tom said he wanted to live alone near the university because he felt the hour-long commute was a waste of time. "You're an adult now, so do as you like. However, I'll cover your apartment rent and tuition, but you'll need to support yourself for any other expenses." I expected some resistance, but Tom agreed without much fuss. In the spring he started his specialized course. He packed his things into a rented car a friend drove and left. For a while, he visited about once a month, but then, claiming he was too busy with part-time jobs and seminars, Tom's visits became infrequent. Though concerned, Sean's words, "Let him be. He's always had you or my mother do everything for him, from cleaning to cooking." Doing it himself will teach him some lessons, along with my own parents falling ill around that time, meant we somewhat let the situation slide. Tom eventually graduated from university and landed a job at his desired company, moving to a far-off city for his first assignment. Shortly after, we received an unexpected visit at home. The visitor, a university student named Anna, revealed she was once tutored by Tom. I initially thought there might have been trouble between Tom and her, but the truth she shared was beyond anything we could have imagined. Tom had an affair with Anna's mother, his student's parent, and when Anna's father, the husband of the woman Tom had an affair with, found out, Tom and the woman eloped together. At least if he had left a divorce paper, it would have been something, but he disappeared without a trace, taking only money and valuables with him. Anna said this in a calm manner, harboring hope that our house, being Tom's family home, might know of their whereabouts. Upon hearing this, Sean immediately tried calling Tom's cell phone, but it only went to voicemail. Then, trying the company, we learned shockingly that he had resigned just under a month after joining. Thinking it was unbelievable, Sean got in touch with a junior doctor couple who lived near the address we had, to ask them to investigate. I was at work, so I had my wife check it out, but there's no apartment or condominium at that address. She even checked with the nearest police box to be sure, so I'm certain there's no mistake, came the reply, leaving Sean and me utterly dumbfounded. Since then, while keeping in touch with Anna, we continued searching for Tom, but neither his nor the woman's whereabouts could be found, and before we knew it, 5 years had passed. By that time, Sean had almost given up on Tom, saying things like, "If he's dead, we'll eventually get a call." However, Tom suddenly appeared in front of me, holding a baby, and without caring for my shocked state, he pushed past me into the house saying, "Listen, this is going to be your home from now on. If you don't behave, you'll be abandoned again." After mocking the child with those words, he turned to me and said, "Take care of the baby and I'm gonna remarry with a rich businessman's daughter," and left without giving me a chance to stop him. Sean, who had been out, was surprised to find me holding a child upon returning home, but was even more startled to learn the child was Tom's, who had disappeared. Anna, who had arrived after hearing the whole story from me, mentioned that before visiting our house, she had checked the family registry at the municipal office and found her mother was still married to her father. So, even if Tom is currently married or plans to remarry, my mother cannot be his current wife, unless he's referring to a common-law spouse in that manner. However, when she spread out the birth certificate she brought, she revealed something even more troubling, but there's something more concerning. Look here. About 2 months ago, my mother gave birth to a child named Ken. Since a birth notification was submitted, he's registered as the father's child in the family registry. I had heard that if a child is born before a divorce is finalized, normally submitting a birth notification would register the child as the husband's if no other claim is made. But to have this happen, and relate to us directly was beyond our expectations. Sean and I were simply at a loss. Later, after conducting a DNA test and having a meeting that included Anna's father, he said, "Now that it's clear this child was born between Tom and my wife, I'm prepared to take him in. He may be the child of the man I despise for destroying my family, but the child himself is not to blame," looking over at Anna. Anna also said with a smile, "Legally, he's considered my father's child, making him my half-brother. I plan to raise him together with my father." But there was something she and her father wanted to discuss with Sean and me. "The truth is, we also want to raise this child. There's a sense of atonement for our son's mistakes, but after living with this child for over a month, we've grown quite attached. I don't have any children of my own, but I want to do everything I can for him. Please, let us." We both showed gratitude, but then, the baby Ken, whom I was holding, looked at us and smiled happily. It was the first time since Tom had handed him over to us. Seeing my tears of joy, Anna and her father relaxed, nodding in agreement as if to give their permission, and I felt so happy I wanted to dance around. When Sean had first said to me, "It might cause us trouble, but would you be willing to raise Ken with me?" I had immediately answered, "Of course. I'd love to." But deep down, I was anxious about whether Anna and her family would agree. That's why having Anna's father's consent felt so reassuring. Later, with the agreement of Anna's father, we went through with adopting Ken. By that time, the whereabouts of Anna's mother had also been established, so the process went smoothly. Simultaneously, Sean decided to take early retirement from his position as head of surgery at the university hospital and help out with my family's business. This allowed us, especially while Ken was still young, to go to the company together with Sean and take turns looking after Ken in a play area we set up next to our workspace. Hearing about this arrangement, a mom looking for part-time work among the children of my colleagues suggested, "It would be great if you turned it into a kids area where children could be looked after while their parents work." Seeing an opportunity, as Sean and I had been struggling to attract female part-timers due to the hard image of our machinery manufacturing site, we jumped at the idea. We renovated one of the unused meeting rooms and staffed it with a qualified childcare worker. We took out insurance for emergencies and got everything ready, and soon, part-time job seekers started showing up one after another. It even became a bit of a topic among our competitors in the area. Thanks to trial and error and the help of our friends, we were able to successfully raise Ken. Though it might be parental bias, Ken himself grew up to be a healthy, honest, and cheerful child. Perhaps because he was surrounded by professionals in machinery manufacturing from an early age, he loved creating things and started joining invention clubs in school, consistently winning awards in contests. As the years passed, Sean's pride in his son only grew, and he even set up a Ken's Awards and Inventions display corner at home. One of Ken's inventions, recognized for its potential to benefit an aging society, received high praise in contests both domestically and internationally. Soon, TV information programs picked up on it, and magazines published interviews with him under headlines like "Handsome School Inventor." Of course, Ken himself wasn't swayed by the attention, joking, "Handsome is such a convenient word. It's amazing how broadly it can be applied." But everything changed the day Tom, who hadn't been heard from in 16 years, showed up at my company with a flashy woman in tow. Tom, appearing for the first time in 16 years, had lost almost all traces of his popularity with women during his school years. At 44, he could easily pass for someone over 60, having become a greasy, overweight middle-aged man. The woman smiling beside him, though once probably quite beautiful, had ruined her looks with thick makeup and tastelessly flashy clothes and accessories. The two barged into the company without asking and came straight to Sean and me. They just stared at us for a while before Tom proudly declared, "Wow, my son's doing great, huh? Guess excellent DNA really does get passed down. I'm impressed. So, I'm currently the vice president of my wife's company, and I'm thinking of taking Ken to succeed me." I was speechless, a sentiment echoed by Sean, who was visibly seething with anger. Our colleagues around us watched in stunned silence, their eyes filled with disdain for Tom and his companion, who seemed utterly unfazed by it all. Just then, Ken, oblivious to everything, popped up. Probably to discuss a new invention model with the veteran workers as usual. But Tom, having no idea about any of this, approached Ken saying, "Ken, is that you? You've grown so much," and introduced the woman beside him as his wife and Ken's future mother. When I heard that, even I felt a rage boiling inside me and started to approach them, but Ken, noticing me, said, "Ah, so you're Tom. You're technically my biological father, right? But why would your wife become my mother? My birth mother has been mentally ill and hospitalized ever since you abandoned her, and my adoptive mother is right there." Tom probably never imagined Ken knew about his birth mother's current state. Taken aback for a moment, Tom then tried to calm Ken, saying, "I don't know what you've been told, but the truth is you're my son. We need to have a serious talk." But Ken ignored him, saying, "Sorry, but I have to suddenly appear on a live web show. I'm too busy, so if you want to have a deep conversation, can we do it some other day?" With that, he gave us and the people around a quick smile, waved, and left. Watching him go, we felt as if the venom had been drawn out of us, and it seemed Tom and his wife felt the same, hastily saying, "Well, we'll come back later." Seems like we're in for a complex discussion, before storming off like they arrived. Soon after, everyone's phones rang simultaneously. It appears Ken sent a mass message. The screen displayed a short message saying, "Watch this channel now," with a URL. Clicking it led directly to Ken's interview. He was explaining his latest invention confidently in front of a popular host. After his presentation, when asked what got him interested in inventions, Ken began to share his story. "Well, I'm adopted by my current parents, but their family has been running a medical equipment manufacturing and sales company for generations, and I was allowed to visit the manufacturing site from a young age." Ken started off lighthearted, but his story quickly turned heavy and sensational. "The reason I ended up being adopted by my current parents is that my biological father is, to put it mildly, a piece of work. He ran off with my birth mother, who was married at the time, and lived off her earnings while doing nothing himself." The host and commentators were shocked, as were Sean and me, wondering how Ken knew such detailed information. Ken continued smoothly. According to him, when Tom realized he could no longer exploit his pregnant partner as before, he started an affair with the daughter of a company president. Then, as Ken was born sooner than expected, Tom panicked, forcefully took Ken from his unwilling mother, and dumped him with me. Of course, pushing me off to my current parents, or rather, my biological grandparents, was partly because my birth mother was too ill to care for me. But I think the main motive was to abandon me to avoid ruining his chances with the company president's daughter. He stated that definitively. He added that his birth mother was hospitalized for a while due to mental and physical exhaustion but eventually passed away, but, thanks to that, I was able to grow up without any hardship under my current parents. If you think about it, I might even owe some gratitude to my lousy father for setting up this twist of fate. He laughed as he revealed that this very father had just shown up at the family business with his wife, claiming they were the rightful parents of Ken. The hosts were shocked again as Ken confessed, "But I've been aware of my biological father's current situation for quite some time." Opening his phone's album, he showed a picture, blurred with a mosaic filter, saying, "This is my deadbeat dad. This is his wife. And this is what the company of my deadbeat dad's wife's family looks like." According to what Ken told us when he got home, it all started when he persistently asked Anna, who had always been kind to him, "If we're not cousins, then what are you to me?" leading him to learn about his origins. Anna had meticulously investigated Tom over the years, eventually leading her to his current wife, Helen. Then, aiming to delve deeper into Tom's affairs, she managed to get a job at the company where Tom's father-in-law was the president. Though she intended to keep her investigation discreet, she ended up confiding everything to Helen's cousin, Sam, and they got married. At first, my only thought was revenge, but by the end, my goal was to ensure Ken, who is also my brother, wouldn't suffer at their hands in the future by finding their weaknesses. Sharing the behaviors of Tom and his wife, which she discovered at the company with Ken, they were on alert when Tom and his wife showed up unexpectedly, like moths to a flame. According to Anna, the company is struggling because of an incompetent vice president and a daughter-doting president. It seems they haven't been blessed with children, and their interest in me was probably because adopting me as a successor would create a buzz, and also extend their debt repayment deadline. Ken shrugged, indicating that the photos on his phone were originally prepared for a magazine interview or something, but the sudden live broadcast opportunity and Tom's family showing up coincided. "Well, since they dug their own grave by coming here, I thought as their son, I'd fulfill their wish in the end." We all hugged Ken in turns, finally able to laugh and relax together. The secret of my birth that Ken revealed on the live web show had a bigger impact than expected. Before, there were not a few online comments mocking Ken with envy, but after that broadcast, the tone changed dramatically, with male netizens saying, "He grew up well without becoming twisted," and female netizens commenting, "Seriously. But what kind of scum would do that to him and his wife?" Support for Ken increased. As support grew, so did the outrage towards the lousy father and his wife, with sites and posts aiming to uncover Tom's identity multiplying rapidly. The power of the internet is terrifying, and soon Tom, known as the deadbeat dad, and his wife, Helen, were exposed. This led to the unveiling of their past, which even we were unaware of. Helen was reportedly vindictive from a young age, targeting children who were better at sports, smarter, or cuter, engaging in nasty bullying. When such behaviors were about to be called out, she would reportedly use her father's status as the head of a major local company to avoid any repercussions, continuing her tyranny unchecked. This behavior wasn't limited to her school days but extended into her professional life, harassing women for being undeservedly popular despite not being that pretty, and even leading to the dismissal of attractive male employees who didn't reciprocate her advances. There were also instances of employees being falsely accused and fired after a minor reprimand was taken as a personal slight by Helen. Tom, after joining his wife's father's company, reportedly harassed young and beautiful female employees despite being married and sabotaged competent male colleagues. Knowing my birth mother married that scumbag, I figured there'd be a scandal or two if they dug deep enough, but I never imagined it'd be this extensive. After reviewing summary sites and videos, Ken laughed, seemingly amused, but as the past misdeeds of Helen and Tom were widely reported, the issue spilled over from the internet to TV and magazines. This drew the attention of shareholders and business partners of Helen's father's company, who wondered if the president and chairman, who had long ignored the problematic vice president couple, were also culpable. This led to a domino effect of cancelled contracts and plummeting performance. Empowered by the media coverage, former employees initiated a class action lawsuit against Helen and Tom for the psychological damage and forced resignations they had caused during their tenure at the company. In response, current employees also came forward as witnesses for the lawsuit and demanded the resignation of Tom and Helen, as well as Helen's father, the company's president, identifying them as the root cause of all problems. In response to the situation, not only the business partners who had been withholding their judgment but also the main banking partners strongly demanded the resignation of the president and vice president for their leadership roles. Of course, Tom, Helen, and Helen's father staunchly refused to resign, but the chairman, who had built the company from scratch to its current size, admitted, "It's my responsibility for being unaware and letting these fools run amok. I'm deeply sorry." He then dismissed his son, the president, his granddaughter Helen, and her husband Tom for causing significant losses to the company, and nominating Anna's husband, Sam, as the successor, and resigned from his position as chairman. Suddenly jobless, the three quickly found themselves unable to sustain their lifestyle and were evicted from their luxurious high-rise apartment. Despite their high incomes, the three were spendthrifts, squandering everything they earned. However, while their salaries were still coming in, they managed to keep their heads above water, but the loss of their jobs almost immediately plunged them into debt, with their credit cards stopped and rent unpaid. Among the collection demands, the most ruthless were from the nightclubs where Helen's father had splurged, Helen's nightclub debts, and the losses from a bar Tom had his mistress run. Terrified, Tom, Helen, and her father sought help from the former chairman, their grandfather, only to receive a message through a proxy lawyer that he had wisely moved away, disposing of all his assets and moving into a nursing home. Almost all his wealth, aside from the care fees, had been paid as settlement money to former employees who sued Tom and Helen for mental damage inflicted during their tenure. The former chairman says, "I've used your share of my inheritance to pay the settlement. Consider it a mercy. Pay off your other debts with your own efforts." The three were reportedly pale upon receiving this message. Soon, each of them began to be hounded by debt collectors daily, with Helen's father disappearing first. Helen also seemed poised to vanish just like her father. However, it was not the debt collectors who stopped her but her husband, Tom. "You wrote my name as a guarantor on the debt repayment agreement without asking me, didn't you? Trying to make a run for it and leave me to deal with your share of the debt. I won't let you do that." "What are you talking about? Living off the perks of being a president's daughter's husband, you've had it good until now. I really want a divorce and a settlement, so the least you can do is handle this." As a result of this ugly dispute, Helen was caught by the debt collectors who sensed her attempted escape and was forced to start working double shifts in the night world. Tom used the confusion to attempt another escape. My husband and I were questioned a few times, but as we had no information, the inquiries eventually stopped. On the other hand, Sam, who was directly appointed by the former chairman as the next president, managed to rebuild the struggling company with Anna's support. Employees who had been sidelined flourished under Sam's leadership, and former employees who had been forced out rejoined, working day and night to achieve better performance than ever before. Meanwhile, Ken, alongside his medical studies, realized his dream of starting a business. He received advice from experts introduced by Anna and Sam, created business plans and proposals, and worked hard towards developing new products. His father-in-law, who had years of experience in trading companies, also leveraged his contacts to help approach foreign investors. When this was widely reported online, Tom, unable to give up, showed up at the company, but Ken completely ignored him and promptly called the police. Tom was taken away by the police, yelling, but after being released, he was caught by the debt collectors, and his whereabouts have since been unknown. Ken plans to hand over the company he started to his team once it's stable and take over our family business after graduating from university. Hearing this, the veteran employees said, "If that's the case, we can't be talking about retirement. We've got work to do," showing even more enthusiasm. Watching Ken and his friends, I feel inspired to keep pushing forward.